Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're taking a really close look at something critical: corporate risk and managing reputation in China. It's, well, one of the most dynamic markets, but also, let's be honest, pretty unforgiving. We've got some key analyses focusing on strategic marketing, corporate resilience, basically trying to understand why these brand crises, both the reputation hits and the regulatory crackdowns, seem to be blowing up so much faster now. And, how smart companies are moving beyond just crisis management to something more like systematic built-in resilience.
It's a really important topic because the rules of engagement there, they're just fundamentally different. To really grasp it, you need this one statistic. It kind of sets the scene. Edelman's 2023 Trust Barometer found that a massive 72% of Chinese consumers say they'd start buying from a brand if they thought it was being politically or socially insensitive.
Wow, 72%. That's huge.
It really is. Think about it. Almost 3 out of 4 people are basically primed to walk away if a brand crosses some line. And you compare that to the global average, which is around 47%.
Okay, so nearly 25 points higher.
Exactly. And that huge gap, that willingness to punish, that's really the core reason why a small issue elsewhere can just explode into a major crisis in China. It explains the speed, the severity, all of it.
Okay, let's unpack that a bit, because I think the first thought for many is, oh, this is a foreign brand problem, right? International companies stumbling over cultural tripwires.
Yeah, that's the common narrative.
But the research we looked at is pretty clear. This isn't just about outsiders making mistakes. The environment itself is just tough for everyone.
It's tough, regardless of where you're from, absolutely. I mean, you see the big global examples all the time, H&M, Nike. They lost serious market share over the Xinjiang cotton issue. Nike specifically, I think they reported something like a 24% drop year over year in sales in China, Q2 2021. That's a massive hit.
A huge hit. But it's not just them. The domestic giants, the companies you'd think get the market intrinsically, they're getting hammered too, maybe just in different ways. Often seems more regulatory for them.
Precisely. Look at the regulatory side, the financial side. Ant Group's IPO canceled basically overnight. Didi pulled from app stores, just like that. Then there was the Luckin Coffee accounting scandal, which really shook investor confidence.
Right.
And even more recently, you've had issues with established Chinese players, like the Xibei restaurant chain or even Arc'teryx, which is Chinese-owned now.
And it goes even deeper, doesn't it? Even brands that are practically institutions, really beloved local names, they aren't safe if the public mood shifts suddenly.
That volatility is the key thing. Lining, a major local sportswear brand, faced boycotts over some controversial design choices. Even Laogan Ma, the chili sauce company everyone knows, got backlash just for changing their packaging.
Wow, just for packaging.
Yeah, it just shows how incredibly fluid public sentiment is. Deep loyalty doesn't offer much of a shield when that tide turns negative.
Okay, so if the sensitivity level's that high, 72%, and nobody, local or global, is immune, then we really need to understand why are things escalating so fast now? The analyses point to about 6 key factors, right? We can probably group them.
Yeah, exactly. Let's group them. Maybe start with policy and regulation. That feels like a big one.
Makes sense.
So the first driver, let's call it policy resets. This is the big one. The risk that entire industries can just be fundamentally changed overnight by new rules. It makes regulatory risk almost existential, not just a sort of compliance headache.
And tied into that, there's the issue of gray zones in compliance. It's not always about breaking clear rules, is it?
Yeah.
It's that many areas, data security, maybe advertising language, sourcing materials, they're deliberately left a bit undefined.
That ambiguity is absolutely critical. It gives regulators and, frankly, public opinion shaping regulatory action huge flexibility. If a company operates in that gray zone, regulators can basically respond to public outcry without needing new laws first.
Yep.
The rule book is sort of written in pencil. We've seen Chinese influencers, live streamers, get hit with massive penalties for stuff that wasn't even clearly illegal when they did it. The mood just shifted. So operating in the gray means you're always vulnerable to being punished after the fact.
Okay, that paints a picture of regulatory uncertainty. So if the rules are fuzzy and can change fast, how does the digital world, the online space, pour fuel on that fire when someone does misstep? That takes us to the next set of drivers, platforms and the public.
Exactly. So factor 3 is platform amplification. We all know social media algorithms push engagement, right? But in China, there are some unique dynamics. A Peking University study found something fascinating. Posts tagged with national interest were 40% more likely to trend.
40% more likely. regardless of whether they're actually true or balanced.
Pretty much. That's how a tiny spark, maybe even a misunderstanding, can reach millions and millions of people within hours. It basically guarantees maximum exposure for any controversy tagged that way.
Right, maximum visibility almost instantly.
And then you combine that platform acceleration with the fourth driver, which is that high level of public sentiment we started with, that 72% figure.
Oh, okay, so the sentiment is the fuel.
It's the core driver, yes, but the policy ambiguity and the platform algorithms, they're the accelerants. They turn that spark into a wildfire incredibly fast.
Got it. Okay, so policy ambiguity, platform amplification, sensitive public. What else is in the mix? There's a third set, right? About the broader context.
Yeah, the economic and value context. So driver number 5 is the economic context. Things like slower economic growth compared to past decades, maybe higher job insecurity. That seems to have tightened public expectations.
How so?
Well, people seem less forgiving of mistakes, especially from big profitable companies or maybe foreign ones seen as benefiting hugely from the market. Minor slip-ups get much stronger reactions now than they might have, say, 5 or 10 years ago. There's maybe less patience, more underlying stress that fuels resentment when companies mess up.
That makes intuitive sense. And that leads to the last driver, number 6.
Value conflicts. For global companies, this is the classic headache. HQ values, maybe around sustainability or social issues, clashing with local Chinese expectations or sensitivities.
We hear about that a lot.
But it's not just foreign brands. For Chinese companies, the value conflict is often more internal, more nuanced. You might have, say, younger, more internationally minded consumer values rubbing up against older, more traditional values.
Or even differences between cities.
Exactly. The view from a Tier 1 city like Shanghai versus a Tier 3 city can be vastly different. You have all these different interest-based groups, these tribes.
So give me an example. How does that internal friction actually spark a crisis?
Okay, imagine a marketing campaign designed for, a really sophisticated, globalized consumer in Beijing. That same campaign might completely miss the mark or even offend consumers in a smaller, more traditional city, sparking a local backlash online.
Oh, I see.
So when Lining got criticized for a design, the real tension wasn't just about the look. It was likely tapping into perceived cultural or even economic disconnects between different groups within China itself. This internal diversity creates constant potential flashpoints.
Okay, so if the whole environment is that complex policy shifts, platforms amplifying everything, deep value frictions, economic anxiety, then the old advice, just apologize quickly or be sincere, that sounds completely inadequate now.
It's basically obsolete advice for this market. What's needed now, what the analysis points to, are systematic, really operationalized approaches, building resilience right into the company's structure, its DNA. The research highlights 5 key actions that companies really need to adopt.
Right, moving beyond just PR damage control. What's the first one?
The first is something called proactive pretesting. It sounds a bit like market research, but it's much more aggressive, I'd say.
Aggressive how?
Instead of just launching something big and hoping, leading companies are doing small pilot campaigns, maybe in a couple of smaller cities, with groups of like 50 to 150 target consumers. But the goal isn't just, do they like it, or will they buy it?
No. What is it then?
They're actively trying to sniff out discomfort or emotional triggers. The exact kind of negative feelings that those digital platforms just love to amplify.
Whoa, okay, so it's not A/B testing messaging. It's literally paying people to tell you if your campaign makes them feel uneasy or offended.
Yeah.
Like actively searching for the landmines.
That's pretty much it. Yeah, hunting for those emotional tripwires before you step on them in public.
Hmm.
Then the second key action is structural preparedness. This is all about putting the discipline in place before anything happens.
How do you structure that?
It typically involves setting up a clear, structured 3-tier system for classifying potential crises. Tier 1, Tier 2, Tier 3 severity. And for each tier, you have a predefined, immediate chain of command for a response. Who gets notified? Who makes the call? What are the first steps? It avoids that chaos and confusion, the ad hoc scrambling that lets a small incident spiral.
Makes sense. Discipline up front. What's action 3?
Action 3 is positive narrative building. Basically, you can't wait for a crisis to happen to start telling people who you are and what you stand for.
You need some goodwill in the bank.
Exactly. Companies need to be consistently, proactively highlighting their positive contributions to society in China. We see examples like Lenovo talking up its R&D hiring in China, or the dairy company Menu promoting its partnerships with local farmers.
So building that positive story provides a kind of buffer, A counterbalance when something negative inevitably hits.
Precisely. And this is crucial. These positive stories, these claims, they need third-party validation to be credible.
Ah, okay. You can't just say you're doing good things.
Not effectively, no. Self-praise isn't enough. The claims need to be transparent and backed up, often through things like quarterly impact reports verified by someone else. Credibility is key, both for the public and for regulators.
Got it. Verified good deeds. What's action for?
Operational separation. This is mainly for the multinationals, but also relevant for Chinese companies expanding abroad. It's about limiting the contagion if a crisis hits one market.
How does that work in practice?
Well, multinationals are increasingly setting up their China operations as legally distinct entities. They have highly localized branding, localized communication strategies.
So if a storm hits in China,
It doesn't automatically poison the well for the brand globally in the US or Europe or wherever. The local entity has more distance, more autonomy to react appropriately to local sentiment without getting tangled in global corporate bureaucracy or values conflicts.
is it just administrative separation, or are we talking truly different brand identities, where the Western parent name is almost invisible locally?
To be really effective, it often needs to lean towards the latter. Enough distance so the local team can genuinely navigate local issues. And interestingly, as you mentioned, big Chinese companies are doing the reverse too, setting up separate brands in, say, Southeast Asia or Europe.
Right, to protect their core domestic brand if things go sideways internationally. Yeah. A smart defensive move. Okay, that leaves Action 5.
Action 5 is internal discipline and drills. This tackles the fact that, honestly, a lot of these crises start inside the company.
Employee mistakes. Influencers going off script.
All the time. So leading companies are creating really specific social media handbooks for employees and partners, defining clear no-go topics, behavioral standards, that sort of thing.
But policies are one thing, making them stick is another.
Exactly. Which is why the second part is crucial. Regular crisis simulations. Drills. A Deloitte study from 2022 found that companies running these drills maybe twice a year cut their overall crisis reaction times by 40%.
40% faster reaction. That could be the difference between containing a problem and having it explode everywhere. That stat really underlines the need for making this routine, institutionalizing it.
Absolutely. And that connects all the dots, really. What we're seeing is that crises in this market, they aren't really exceptions anymore. They're becoming part of the fundamental operating reality. It's almost institutionalized risk. So the real challenge for leaders isn't just having a crisis plan, it's truly institutionalizing resilience, making it a core operational function like finance or HR, not just something the PR team dusts off in an emergency.
So wrapping this up, what does it all mean for you listening? I think the big shift is clear. It's moving away from just reactive firefighting, scrambling to respond to the latest online flare-up.
Yeah, that model is broken.
The real challenge now is proactively building that deep, long-term, verifiable trust. With consumers, yes, but also crucially with regulators, with your partners on the ground. The companies that manage that, they won't just survive the storms.
They'll likely emerge stronger with more trust because they weathered it well.
Exactly. Okay, final thought then, something for you to chew on. Given how fast social media moves, especially with that national interest tag boosting things by 40%, how often does a company's internal crisis handbook, those guidelines and drills, even need to be updated?
Good question.
Is it monthly? Quarterly? And can that update cycle possibly even keep pace with the sheer speed and volatility of sentiment shifts in the market today? Something to think about as you navigate this landscape.